Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us on Facebook for another one of the Greater Victoria Chamber of Commerce's virtual fireside chats. That's a mouthful. And today I'm joined by Mayor Lisa Helps from the City of Victoria. Welcome, Lisa.
Thanks, Catherine.
And I'm Catherine Holt, the CEO of the Greater Victoria Chamber of Commerce. Should have said that right off the bat. So we're going to take this opportunity with the mayor to talk about the experience that she has had as the mayor of the downtown part of our region, where the majority of businesses are located, in trying to manage all of the issues that have fallen onto our laps in this last few weeks. So I'm just going to start with that question, Mayor. What would you say are the main concerns that you have been trying to manage, or the main issues that you've been trying to manage?
Thanks, Catherine. Thanks for the opportunity to join you. There have been really three buckets, I guess, that we've been focusing on. One is working to support businesses through this very challenging time, unprecedented time, and we can talk more about that. Two is staying connected with residents, both myself as mayor and then our city staff. And then the third, the issue that's been most visible, as the Prime Minister has asked everybody else to stay home. It's very clear who can't stay home. Those are people that don't have homes. And so the issue of homelessness has consumed a lot of our time in the past 5 weeks as well. So those three buckets. So
those are very big buckets, each one of them. So maybe we'll take each one of them and you can talk a little bit more about what you've been doing. So obviously, I would say all of those are interconnected as well. It's hard. I know you're trying to manage by having them in buckets, but from a business perspective, the issue of what is happening with our homeless population obviously affects business too. So, and many of our businesses are also residents, so they've been connecting with you that way as well. But let's just start with the business bucket. So what have been some of the main things that the city has done with regard to helping business survive?
Well, the first thing, and this is, I guess, more my style than anything, is as soon as the pandemic hit in a meaningful way, I convened a call with business leaders. I know you're part of that call, as is the Downtown Victoria Business Association, Community Microlending, Think Local First. We've got some property owners, some retailers, and we've been meeting without fail twice a week for the last probably 5 weeks now. So all of the actions that the city's taken have been driven by that intelligence that's shared on those twice weekly calls. The calls have been useful, I think, in terms of the first and most concrete thing the city did was created a COVID biz resources page on our website that has every federal announcement, all the details, as much as we can get, the wage subsidy, basically everything that business needs to know. And we agreed, all of us, early on in the call, that it would be a one-stop shop at the biz resources page. So that's the first thing we did. And then we brought, with the hard work of our staff, some recommendations to council. And this one was a hard fought 0% property tax increase. It was a 5-3 vote. But I think that sends an important signal to businesses and residents that we're all in this together. So that was a big one, that we will not be increasing property taxes this year. And then also, as you know, you and I and others have been working on very strong advocacy, both to the provincial and federal governments. And it's very heartwarming and heartening to see that kind of advocacy pay off in terms of rent relief for small businesses in particular. So those are some of the things that we've been working on. There are probably more, but I'll leave it at that for now.
Yeah, and this is more a comment than a question, but having been a part of those calls, and I would say it is a reflection of your style, as I've experienced it over the years that I've been the CEO, to do that, to bring disparate groups together with a common agenda and see how far we can get together. And this is an example of that. And it's been a great discussion to keep in touch with all those different interests in a quick and easy fashion. And I agree with your assessment that it's been useful. The rent advocacy in particular, I think we really made the most of our network on that call to put the pressure on both the federal and provincial governments.
Yeah, just before we leave that topic, there are also really concrete initiatives that have come out of those calls, like the Boxes of Hope program. So that's a program where local restaurateurs are keeping their staff employed. They're pumping out thousands of meals a week to feed people who are living outside in the camps. And it's great because it meets a couple of needs. It is paying restaurant staff and keeping businesses open, but also feeding people who are hungry. And that Boxes of Hope was generated by that phone call. So there have been, and there are some other initiatives as well. So it's been advocacy and lobbying, but also some things that are actually putting money into businesses' pockets.
And it wasn't maybe strictly an outcome of that call, but it was the connection between some leading community leaders that led also to the Rapid Relief Fund too, which was an interesting early connection in this. That was you, Robert Joll, or the Joll Foundation, Family Foundation, and Victoria Foundation, wasn't it?
And the Times Colonist. I don't want to take too much credit for that. Absolutely. They were hatching the idea. I just came along as a supporter and a champion early on, but that was mentioned on the calls, but I think credit where credit's due on that one.
Yeah, but that's been, okay, not an outcome of the calls, but an interesting outcome with regard to different community groups working together so quickly in this town to come up with pretty close to $5 million now for people who need it to get through this time. So that's been very impressive. You also did some early relief with regard to utility bills, tax bills, rent for people who are renting from the city. Could you talk a little bit about those concrete measures that the city's taken to remind people where they're at with that?
Sure. So we extended the property tax deadline as far as we could to August 4th. The province has subsequently expanded the property tax deadline for commercial ratepayers to October 1st, which we're very grateful for. The reason we couldn't go any further than August 4th is because we have to turn around on that day and pay about $100 million to other organizations, notably the Capital Regional District and others. But we did extend the deadline by a month. We've also spread the penalties over a larger period. So the provincial government requires that we charge a 10% late fee for property taxes. It was previously 5% on July 1st and 5% on August 1st. We've now stretched it out 2% per month from August to December. And that would, of course, be different for commercial property taxpayers who don't have to pay until October 1st. So that's a very concrete measure. The other is we've reduced late penalties or eliminated late penalties on utility bills. It used to be that you had to pay your bills within 45 days. We've extended that out to 90 days. So again, we're not the federal or provincial governments. So we don't have massive relief packages that we can provide, but I do feel confident that we've looked under every rock to do what we could to show, again, that we're all in this together. Yeah.
Okay, great. So that's a reminder. I'll have I have a question later on about longer term impacts, of course, but talk a bit about what the homeless situation has involved from your perspective.
That's been a very challenging one. One of the things that's really striking to me about COVID-19 is it's really laid bear the vulnerabilities in Canadian society. You know, who are the most vulnerable, and in this instance, seniors in care homes, people who are homeless. It really shows who the vulnerable are. And so that's, I guess, just a statement of fact, really. But we've been working, again, same as I did with business, except with the homeless situation. It was so dire that I made the calls be every day. The moment that the shelters had to reduce their numbers because of social distancing, which was March the 17th, I called, organized a phone call with BC Housing, Island Health, the Coalition to End Homelessness, and others, and insisted that they get on the phone and talk with me every day about what we were going to do. And out of that emerged the plan that the province announced on Saturday. So we did our part, pushing and cajoling and doing what we could on the ground. And then over the Easter long weekend, the province put together this deputy minister committee that has subsequently taken a very strong leadership role, which we saw roll out on Saturday. So doesn't mean the work is over. Our staff are on probably 5 or 6 calls a day, trying to mobilize 360 people from tent encampments into indoor sheltering situations.
Right, and that, just to be a little more specific for people who weren't paying detailed attention, what came out on the weekend was the information that the province had negotiated through BC Housing space in hotels voluntarily, not forcing them into agreements to house people who are otherwise homeless. and the province is providing supports, I understand, and there's a provincial order that the people who are not, who are on the streets or in the park at the moment need to be housed by May 9th, I believe.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. The provincial order is for May 9th, and that's for Pandora Avenue as well as for Topaz Park. And between those two places, there are 360 people who have been identified for movement indoors. Many of them have challenges that need support, healthcare supports, and others. Again, a really vulnerable population. So it was great to see the provincial leadership.
Yeah, and so good news. That's good news for business too, because we have been hearing a lot of concerns from downtown business owners about when it's also a little bit of a textbook case when average business owners, customers, the office workers, the people who are usually populating downtown are not there. The homeless population became more high profile, obvious, evident. And there were a number of concerns about safety of them, safety of businesses. I know the policing effort was stepped up. So I think this is a good move for business as well, to know that there's a safer plan in place for people who are otherwise on the street.
Yeah, I mean the other really interesting thing about the whole pandemic is it really shows how waiting to solve wicked problems is no good, because then another wicked problem comes along and piles on top of it. So 4 years ago, the province declared a public health emergency because of the opioid crisis. And I think if Dr. Kendall at the time and Dr. Henry subsequently had stood up every day and said, we have had this many overdoses and this many deaths, we would be in a very different situation. We might be in a very different situation than we are right now. So that part of the disorder and theft downtown is because the drug supply, the cost of street drugs has increased exponentially with supply chain challenges, quite honestly, and that means that people who haven't been provided the services they need because of their addiction in the years past, since this first public health emergency was declared, are turning to breaking and entering and other things to service their habit for more expensive drugs than they ever have been before. So it is a wicked problem.
It is, and there have been a few. It's funny how so many other extremely important issues have faded into the background because of our focus on COVID-19. There have been reminders over the last few weeks about the fact that we have lost many, many more people to opioid overdoses than we have to COVID. Not to minimize what everyone's experiencing with COVID, but that other emergency continues, as you say, in parallel. And so what is, just a last question about that. So it's one big step of success to get some housing for the people who are on the streets and in Topaz Park. What happens to them next?
Well, I was very happy to hear Minister Shane Simpson on Saturday commit publicly in their press conference to the fact that the people who are housed during this pandemic to prevent the spread of COVID through the unsheltered population will not be put back out on the street after this pandemic is over. So that was a significant commitment from the provincial government. And so then, in a sense, the real work begins now. Where are 360 people who are going to be living in hotels and other temporary places going to be housed permanently? And I think there's a real opportunity for the whole region to come together around this. When I was running in the last election, our place hosted an all candidates meeting, and I pitched the idea of mayors for modular housing. So we know that the modular housing program works. There are 7 buildings in Vancouver. They look and feel like regular apartment buildings. They're quite beautiful, actually. What the province requires is bare land, and then they come in and build these buildings and bring all of the supports that need to be put in place so that people can thrive in those buildings. And so it might be time to get this Mayors for Modular Housing group together and say, can we, in each local government, in each municipality across the region, can everyone take one building and see how that goes?
Yeah, and the Chamber's been very strongly in support of things like the long-term recovery community that our place has been running in View Royal, and good on View Royal for stepping up and agreeing to be the host of that in the former youth detention facility. And absolutely, our view is spread it around the region. Yes. So.
Well, and quite honestly, the people who find themselves in downtown Victoria are from across the region. They're from North Saanich, they're from Central Saanich, they're from Langford, they're from Souk. And so, not only in terms of spread it across the region, but wouldn't it be great if people could have the housing that they need in their home communities where they've come from?
Yeah. So I'm going to go to one of our questions from our audience because it's directly relevant to this. So they're asking what the support looks like for the people who are in the hotel solution in local neighborhoods.
I don't know.
And for people in local neighborhoods.
Yeah, I don't know. This is really a provincial program. That's a good question to ask. I mean, the Minister Simpson has committed to providing supports, but I don't know. I don't have the details.
Okay. But the point is they know that they can't just put people in hotels and then say, fend for yourself.
Absolutely. And that's, that's the advocacy that we've been making to the province for the past 5 weeks. And they fully recognize that. And to have Minister Darcy be part of this, the cabinet committee, I think, yes, absolutely. I think the province understands what support means. My understanding is that there's no shortage of dollars to fund this program. The challenge will be finding staff, just because a lot of frontline workers, particularly health workers, are already tapped out.
Yeah, very true. Okay, so the third bucket was connecting with residents. Can you talk a little bit about what you've been doing there?
Sure. I mean, that's been the most challenging because, we can't hold town hall meetings. I really have been missing my mayor's drop-in. We've been having a drop-in here every 2 weeks for the past 5 years where people come into my office, have a cup of coffee, share their thoughts and stories with me and with all the other people in the room. So I've been missing that. It might actually be time to hold a mayor's drop-in by Zoom. Hadn't thought about that until now, but we've been doing a Facebook Live every day for the past 4 weeks, sharing information from the city and then also receiving feedback on that feed that we will then take in and answer and come back to the next day. So that's been the most direct way. Our neighborhoods team has set up a great page for neighborhoods, for people living in neighborhoods, which are all Victorians, about how people can stay connected. And then as part of the Facebook Live, we've been receiving and sharing ideas from the community. So everything from a website called Well and Truly Grey, which has been set up by seniors for seniors, to a whole bunch of community initiatives. We've been gathering that information from residents and then sharing it on the Facebook Live and on my blog to make sure that people are staying not only connected with City Hall and with Council, but with each other.
Okay, can we talk a little bit? I've got some another question coming in. I'm just going to ask you this very specific question when you talk about changes that you're making. So there's a couple that I wanted to talk about. One, I'm going to ask this question first. If a restaurant is now doing takeout and want to include alcohol, how can they apply for a temporary liquor license? Have you turned your mind to that at all?
I have no idea. Liquor licenses are provincial. Well, it's like the province is the holder of liquor licenses. We have a process in place. All of our liquor license applicants. So sometimes a referral is sent to us. The other thing that council's done for business is we are still meeting every single week. So development applications are being processed, liquor license applications are being processed. So that's I guess a question for the province. But in terms of if there would be a referral to the city for that provincial liquor license, we're ready to go. We're meeting weekly and we're keeping business going.
Okay, so this person should apply to the province and then you will do your part when it comes to your part of the process.
If they even, I would be surprised if they even referred a temporary permit to us, but I don't know. But yes, we'll do our part. Our staff are pretty good at turning those around relatively quickly.
Okay, thanks for that. You alluded just in that answer to the other processes that the city is trying to run. So one of those is public hearings. What's happening with, what's your plan for public hearings?
Every council in the province is waiting for Minister Robinson and her staff to give us our marching orders. We know that this is something the province is working on, and hopefully they will come out soon with what we're supposed to do. It makes absolutely no sense for each local government to make it up on its own. So this is somewhere that the ministry and the minister has taken some leadership, and hopefully there'll be something that comes out very soon in that regard.
And right now, and you're concerned about that both from the opportunity for residents to have So development's being delayed as it stands now because you can't have public hearings as per the legislation in person. And now because they're on hold, development's not going ahead, but also residents not having their opportunity for input. So you're looking at probably some kind of technological solution to that, maybe Zoom meetings for public hearings. I'm making that up. I know you don't know for sure, but yeah, that's the direction that the minister's probably going in.
To me, it's really, really important that we keep construction moving for a number of reasons. One is because it's been declared an essential service and it's jobs that people can do. And when the economy reopens, I want money in people's pockets to go and spend at the local restaurants and local retailers. And so construction workers are a good source of that money in the pocket kind of people. So that's important to me. So we've been processing applications all the way through, but yeah, we're waiting for the public hearing piece. Probably I don't want to get into the technological solutions. The minister did issue a directive some time ago that local governments could decide to waive public hearings for applications that didn't need an official community plan amendment. To my knowledge, no local government has done that yet, because of course then that cuts off the residents' opportunity for comment. So I think this is one where provincial leadership will hopefully come very soon. But in the meantime, we're moving things ahead to the state of public hearing. So we'll be ready to go.
Okay. Good information. Okay, we're got about 5 minutes left. Could you talk a little bit about your concerns about the longer term impact on the city? Good and not so good. Is there any good?
Is there really good? I don't know.
Is there any good?
Well, I think the good is in a lot of ways we have to rethink what life looks like. We have to rethink what does business as usual mean. So I think it never hurts to rethink and reinvent. So I guess that's the good if there is one. In terms of the city itself, like our financial situation is pretty good for a while now, but particularly since 2014, we've been significantly building our reserves, our infrastructure reserves, our capital reserves, so that we can keep maintaining our infrastructure and doing all of those things even while this pandemic is in place. So in terms of the city's fiscal state, I think I know we're in relatively good shape, which I think is good to have a stable local government that's not worrying about, are we going to go bankrupt? That would send very strange and I think not good signals to the public. So we're good as a corporation. I think the impacts are the obvious ones. It's going to be a challenge. I think we will see a higher vacancy rate. We've worked very, very hard since 2014 to support local businesses to open. We were going into the pandemic with close to the lowest vacancy rate since 2014. So
you're talking about commercial.
Yeah, retail vacancy rate, and commercial for that matter, but retail vacancy rate kind of,
but I mean, not residential.
No, not residential. No. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. So that's going to be an impact. I think it's going to be a very strange summer with few to no tourists here. Again, I know that Paul Nursey and his team at Destination Greater Victoria, once things open up even just a littlest bit, will be trying to attract folks from up north on Vancouver Island and up north in British Columbia to come and visit our beautiful city. So that's going to be, I think, a very strange immediate impact, but also longer term recovery impacts. And then one of the things I think that we won't notice until they're gone are all the festivals that happen downtown. Car Free Day and Jazz Fest and Pride, and every weekend there's something going on in the downtown, and Canada Day. And from what Bonnie Henry is saying, it's going to be a festival-less summer in Victoria and obviously across the country. But I think those are some of the near-term impacts that we're going to be feeling even as things start to open up.
Yes. So we're just about out of time. So thank you very much for all that information. I just want to remind people that we do have a virtual fireside chat coming up tomorrow with the Honorable Michelle Mungall, who's the Minister of Jobs, Economic Development and Competitiveness. And that'll be an opportunity for me to ask some of the follow-on questions from what we've talked about today, what the province is doing. with regard to a number of these business challenges. So I encourage everybody to tune in for the next chapter in our virtual fireside chats. And thank you again, Mayor, for making your very scarce time available to us today.
My pleasure. Anytime, Catherine.
And thanks to everybody for watching on Facebook Live. And we hope that you view us in the future when we're online. Thank you again.